9 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody who's joining us live. We go live every day. We've been live every day since 2016. And we talk about guns. So in the age of AI, this is your human interface with the guns in the gun community, I guess. So I'm talking and typing here as we get this show started. Be part of the show. Say hey, use the comments. We got the comments here on the screen and whatnot. So we'll get into it here. I've got guncalendars.com open on the screen. It's one of our websites. And guess what? It has a calendar on it. So as we scroll down here, we see that it's July and there's different events that go on during the month. Nothing really happening today, tomorrow, or the next day. At least it's on our calendar. But we do have an event on the 16th, at least this was a historical anniversary, I guess. When back in July of 2014, Obama banned imports from the Kalashnikov concern, which was annoying. So that was like an additional ban. I guess that would have been part of his 23 executive actions from 2013. So it didn't hurt a lot of people, didn't affect a lot of people, but it was certainly annoying to some of us. And I believe we still have that issue still with us. So it'd be great to see that kind of thing removed. On the 17th, and we just leave that kind of stuff in there so we don't forget, right? It's easy enough to mess with us if we never forget the things that have happened. It's even easier to mess with us. So on the 17th, we've got a couple of things in here. First, I guess we'll go with the first thing, which was the Militia Act of 1862. Which allowed African Americans to be in the wars. So isn't that handy? That was from July of 1862. Then in 1897, not too far after that, Browning signed a contract with FN, and they started to make a blowback 32 caliber semi-auto pistol for the markets overseas. And that lasted, or that started, I guess, in 1899. So I don't know, I'm not an expert on Browning, but, you know, Browning was the son of a gunsmith, and his story is pretty interesting. There's like a movie at his museum where you can watch it, and it talks about how he grew up. So he was always going to be an inventor. He was a clever kid, and he it's like say his dad was already a gunsmith, so he knew about that kind of thing. And the story goes that as he was, that him and his brothers created a gun out of spare parts, I think. Or it's either out of raw materials or spare parts. I don't really remember. But either way, it was pretty clever. And he was out shooting that gun and noticed that the grass was bending over. Basically he noticed the effect of the gas being expanded as the bullet left the barrel, the muzzle. And that got him thinking. And he literally created the first semi-auto by taking a gun and creating an action, and because there was already break open guns, so they understood the concept of like a action and a breach and that kind of thing, and a chamber. But he essentially put a paddle up front, if I remember right, and then the gas coming out of the muzzle would hit that paddle and physically fiddle a thing. And was that the lever action, or he attached it to a lever action? So basically made a semi-auto with like a little paddle up front, and that quickly evolved into his other designs, capturing that energy in different ways. And anyway, then he made the semi-auto. Of course, he made pistols and rifles and shotguns, and took us from single shot guns to full auto. Like he alone did all that. So when he signed up with FN, that was because he had already had he made some things. Him and his brothers built stuff. There was a Browning Brothers shop, but he also worked with Colt and Winchester and other people. And did he work with Colt? I shouldn't say that. He worked with Winchester and other people. And when he figured out that he wasn't happy with Winchester, I think Winchester was bothering him because they were buying his patents and then not doing anything with them. And I don't think he liked that or something. I don't really remember. But anyway, he started working with FN. So it's a pretty major step along the line. And once he was working with FN, of course, he had European markets. He went over there and worked over there. And that's where he ended up passing away, I believe. But yeah, it's what it is. And then, of course, 9mm happened. He was influenced by 9mm over there. Probably, they probably drugged him, probably long-term isolation. Who knows what kind of horrible things they did to him. And then, the only way out for him was to accept 9mm. Anyway, that's a different story. Looking forward onto the 19th. That's the, is that the birthday of Glock? I think that's when he was born, 1929. Yeah, that sounds right. So Glock's birthday is in 1929, coming up on the 19th. And then he's born, of course, on the same day as Colt. How interesting is that? Day after that, Masad Ayub is his birthday. So that being said, that's what's coming up on the calendar in the near future. DJs out there, welcome. Let's see. So then if we go to a little bit further out, the 24th, we have a ruling from 2018, a fairly recent one, that the Ninth Circuit Court ruled that restricting open carry is unconstitutional. And since I'm talking about that, I'm assuming since it was a circuit court decision, it must not have been challenged up till now. But, who knows what's going to happen. Up on the 29th of July, that's one of a big one here for Arizona. That's when our constitutional carry went into effect. We were the second state, I think, with constitutional carry. So that was 2010. Think about what you were doing in 2010. But in 2010, we started carrying without any kind of state permit here in Arizona. Simply our, citizenship, I guess, was, our ability to carry. And we've been an example of the effect of the situation, which is, nil, nothing. Nothing really happens when you give people the ability to carry. You know what happens? People that don't want to carry, don't carry. And people that wanted to carry anyway, carry. So there you go. Nothing happens. Going on a little further, we have, what's the next month after this one? Wow, is it already August? It is. You know what I don't have in here is the Goals event that's coming up at the end of this month. So Goals would be in here starting on the Friday, I think, the 31st. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just for media. But it's open on Saturday for sure. And then I think Sunday also. So that's missing here. But if you're going to Goals, that's on here. Or if you're going to be watching content that comes from Goals, I guess that's a thing. So then we have the Battle of Athens. Let me make this a little bit smaller. There. We got the Battle of Athens, which was something that happened back in 1946 after the end of World War II. Some veterans came back, and I forget the specifics, but Athens is a town in Tennessee. It's just above Chattanooga and on a way to Knoxville, I think, if I remember correctly. So it's kind of in the middle of Tennessee. And it's in the middle of nowhere. Like there's just this highway and it's off the highway. And not a big town. They had a dispute over some voting, and a bunch of people grabbed the ballot boxes and hit them or something. So a bunch of people raided the National Guard armory and grabbed a bunch of rifles and ended the vote, or the stopped, maybe prohibited the stealing of the vote or something like that. So it's an example of the use of the individual right to have access to arms being necessary, I guess, or at least having a conclusion that people seem to be okay with. So I don't know, over the years, I think I became aware of it I don't even know, maybe in like 2010 or something, and added it. And it'd be interesting to know when I added it to the calendar. But then, well, I had to know about it before then because in 20, wait, no, 2012. Yeah, okay, maybe I knew about it in 10. 2012, we're driving around the country and we were headed, I can't remember if we were going, I think we were headed to Chattanooga. Maybe, I can't remember anymore. I think it was 18. Yeah, I'm almost positive it was 18. No, no, not 18. 12 because Haas was with me. So anyway, me and Haas went there and they have a little tiny sign about it, but I think we asked a couple of people and then nobody wanted to talk about it. And that was in 2012. Since then, I think they may have, well, some people have done like interviews with people there. So either people have had different opinions on it or um, they've changed their mind or they found people that would talk about it. My audio is doing okay. I guess I should ask. I'm assuming it's doing all right. Outcast is out there. Welcome. Should be working, but whatever. Woods. Yeah, I guess he's not allowed to be. He's allowed to not be working. DJ. He's allowed to not be working, I guess. If you're out there and you want to say, hey, feel free. That's what it's all about. We're doing a live show here. This isn't like some kind of AI scripted broadcast, you know, where the prompt was like, how do I sell more vertical red dot grips and, you know, make something entertaining to wrap that sales pitch around. That's it. That's not what you're getting here. We've got plates for those red dots here. So you can order below. Actually, I'm just kidding. You'll see at the bottom of the screen there, it does say our Patreons to make projects like this possible. So this is a website. It's called Gun Calendars. We're taking a look at some of the events that are coming up in the next couple of weeks, I guess. We're about halfway through the month, so it's kind of a dumb time to do this. But this is a website, right? It costs something to keep running, and the domain name costs something. That's just the facts of life. They don't give us stuff for nothing out there. I guess you could say that the time to create this thing and put it together and, you know, whatnot was something too. But we did that as pretty much we did all this stuff live over the years as workshops to show people how to use websites or how to run plugins and things like that. And then stuff in the calendar, of course, has been contributions over the years by lots of people. So it's a giant group effort here. And the Patreons, the people that contribute, but subscribe monthly to what we're doing, contribute financially to what we do. This is what we do. We have websites out there that offer information. And if you'll notice how many ads are on here, look at all the pop-up ads. That's I've never actually had any workshops on how to put pop-up ads or how to create funnels. I don't do that shit. We do have some links over here to things like, you know, our own websites and some of the big ones out there, but they're not like $10 to buy a donation or anything like that. So again, thanks for the Patreons, people that throw a couple of bucks out there each month to keep these kind of websites online and alive. These are being found in website, you know, on search engines. I suppose if you went out there, it wouldn't really be all that useful for me to go to a search engine and attempt to go to one of these sites because, you know, my search history, it would go to it anyway. But use your own search engines, you know, type in some of the stuff that we have put out there and you'll see that we do pretty good. And that's the goal, you know, just to get information out there. So thanks to our Patreons for that. As DJ saying, it's a good time to share the show. Yeah, while we're live, it's a good time to share it. I do appreciate DJ always putting that out there for us and really all the live shows that are out there. If you value live, you know what I mean? Like, do something about it. Share a show. It doesn't cost nothing to share it. There's like a little button at the bottom of your screen someplace that says, you know, a little arrow thing that says share. Create a post. Throw it on one of your other platforms for any show that you're watching. It helps them out. That's how the logarithms, you know, they use those as indications of how worthy the show is to consider recommending. All right, so that was the Battle of Athens. So we got the Air Force. The Air Force thinks they're better than everybody. We all know that. And then we've got things like the Navy, who doesn't act like they're better than everybody. And we all know that. But the Air Force has to have 2 days. They have their birthday, which is a different day, but they also have Air Force Day. I've used to remember what this is about. Let's see. Air Force Day was established in 1947 by Truman in recognition of the personnel from the victorious Army Air Forces. So when they used to just be part of the Army where they belonged. And come on. And all those who developed and maintained our nation's air strength, right? Which was the Army. And then, dang it. Then August 1st was chosen to mark the 40th anniversary of the establishment in 1907 of the Aeronautical Division of the Office of the Chief Signal Officer of the Army, which just rolls off the tongue and sounds better than stupid Air Force anyway, right? But whatever. Air Force Day came into being immediately after signing the National Security Act in 1947, although the status of the air and element of the military was uncertain. Thus, although it was called Air Force Day, its first celebration was staged by the Army Air Forces and not the U.S. Air Force. So I guess, the Air Force is like, well, it can't be our birthday. So they have to have a separate day, which is their birthday, which is probably some other day. But they also have Air Force Day, which they refuse to give up. So we have to recognize the Air Force twice every year. So that's on the 1st. And then we also have an anniversary of the patenting the first the first Browning automatic rifle. We talked about Browning a moment ago. One of his rifles was patented for the first time in 1917. It is not still being used today, but they still are out there and they still work. Let's see. I don't know why I have the Battle of Athens in here twice. Maybe because it lasted for 2 days. Oh, yeah, I guess 1st and 2nd. The way this calendar works, this version of a calendar works. I think I did pay for this. I used to use a free one, and then like all free things, it fell apart after some time. So this is a paid one. And the way, you got to deal with some things, the way that they build them, and it spreads things out. I prefer to not do that. I'd rather have like a 4-day event just be mentioned on the first day, but I understand why they do it this way. If you pulled just a day out, I guess it'd be interesting to know, it's the last day of some multi-day event. Anyway, then we have Bill Hickok. You may have heard of him back from the olden days. And he's the guy that died holding the dead man's hand, aces and eights. And he died on August 2nd back in 1876. I got a couple more here since we've got them on the page. Like I say, we're probably doing this at a dumb time. We should probably do this at the beginning or the end of the month. But since we're doing it in the middle, we're kind of digging into August now. Coast Guard has their birthday, and they're normal. They have like a birthday, and that is 1790. They're pretty old. Congress authorized the construction of 10 vessels to enforce the tariffs and trade laws. What? Tariffs? In 1790? There was tariffs? I guess Trump made those. Let's see. And to prevent smuggling and protect the collection of federal revenue, right? So to collect the taxes. So their responsibilities, the Coast Guard tax collectors' responsibilities over the years included humanitarian duties such as saving people in boats, which, what the hell? If you're going to drive around a boat, you should know how to drive around a boat, is my opinion. I live in a desert, but I have a lot of opinions about boats. Let's see. Go down here. Anyway, so that's what's happening on the Coast Guard birthday. And I give Coast Guard more credit than other people do because I understand what they're doing. They have a lot of tasks over there, and they're usually laughed at, mocked. And really, the Navy should be laughed at and mocked, not the Coast Guard. Let's see. So then we have Dragunov, his birthday. When is it? No, the day that he died. So it'll be the anniversary of the passing of Dragunov. So I have a lot of inventors in here, gun inventors in here, because one time we did the gun inventors playing card deck, right? And we did all that stuff live also. It's like workshops and live events. And I put a lot of them in here. I don't know if it's useful or not, but I figure if you're at like the water cooler, if you're at the gun range or something, maybe you're thinking about what to bring to the range, and it's somebody's anniversary passing or their birthday or something. And it gives you an idea what to bring to the range that month or that week. So, what do you, I'm going to throw a comment. We got a bunch of people out there. Snob is even out there. So what do we got? Oklahoma, New York, Nebraska, Washington, Ohio. I didn't see Chris out there. Welcome. And if you're out there, let us know, because otherwise, how am I supposed to know you're out there? I'm not one of them kind of people. I'm not the AI. The AI shows, they know when you're watching. But anyway, whatever. If you want to put out there, how often do you go shooting? Do you go shooting weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly? You can put it out there. Don't be scared. Let's see. So next up would be coming up on the 6th of August will be the anniversary of North Carolina decriminalizing hunting with a suppressor. And I'm glad I put these in here actually, because now that suppressor f- things are regulations on suppressors at a national level are changing quite a bit. It's certainly interesting to see suppressors as an indication of the normalization of guns. To see the spread or the growth. I don't know what to call it. Like, but basically the spread of normalization. I'm gonna call it that, because these are just erasers. Like all these aren't new laws. These are what do you call, like, the representatives being uh, challenged to remove prohibitions. And when those bills are put through, like, don't pass this law, but pass this bill that says remove these laws. And that's awesome, like, in so many ways, because that's an indication of, one, people understanding more about suppressors, people seeing and understanding, like representatives and the public, right? Seeing and understanding that you can take an eraser to laws. Laws aren't some kind of like sacred where we have to just add more to modify them. Like, we're allowed to erase. So constitutional carry laws are the same way. They often just go in and erase the prohibitions that were once there. So when you look at one of their bills, they're really just a bunch of edit all these lines in existing law and remove all these lines that say there's a prohibition, and that's it. That's the constitutional carry in most states. So to see a state back in 2015, which sounds like a long time ago since it was 10, 6, 11 years ago now. I don't know, where did I say which one they were? Sometimes I'll put in here which state they were. The 14th state. See, that's the kind of information we try to put out there. Again, is that necessary? No. But if you live in North Carolina, it's kind of cool to know. And again, maybe you go buy a suppressor because of that anniversary date, and you can buy it from one of our links. No, I'm just kidding. There's no links. And I'm just kidding because fucking YouTube would knock us off the air if I said that for real. I'm just kidding. That was parody. That was a joke of what you're not supposed to say on YouTube. That's an example of what you're not supposed to say on YouTube. Order of the Purple Heart is created on the 7th of August. So the Purple Heart, you ever heard of that? That was a holiday that was first observed in 2014. Really? I don't think that's true. So why does it say that? Really? Oh, is that true that there was never a Purple Heart Day before 2014? Maybe I am right about that. Anyway, it's 2000, or I guess that'll be the 7th. I thought there was always a Purple Heart Day. I guess not. Then we have the last one in the current like page of dates here, but it's certainly not the last thing in the calendar. But on the 8th of August, we will have the anniversary of Smith & Wesson patenting the metal bullet cartridge for the revolver. So Smith & Wesson did quite a few things. If you want to think about them as a company, like Colt created the revolver essentially. Winchester, well, Smith & Wesson first came along and created the Volcanic, which was a lever action gun that had cartridges, or I don't know what to call them. Like, I guess you'd call them cartridges that contained their own powder, but they were the projectile that contained powder. So they were kind of like a weird, big, giant black powder slug with powder in it, so that you could have a bunch of those, think of them as cartridges, and then they could feed with this lever into the chamber. It didn't work that well. The caliber was a little bit more powerful than 9mm, so people at the time rightly thought it was underpowered and got rid of it. So that technology was bought by a shirt maker, and his name was Winchester. So that's where the Volcanic went. And then Smith & Wesson was like, screw that, let's do something else. Okay, let's go with that revolver like Colt made, but you know what let's do? Let's make a bullet already, because we're sick of loading everything through the front like an old Clint Eastwood movie. So we're going to take a piece of shot and we're going to jam it into a primer, or whatever they call a primer cap from black powder. And we're going to call that a cartridge, because it'll shoot that little BB. And we've always wanted to make a self-contained cartridge. And we finally did in 1854. And I think it was like a day or two later, they came up with, what do you call it? Is it called buying the patent? I don't know what they did. They leased the patent for the bored through cylinder from another guy, and then took the Colt revolver, bored through the cylinder with what's his face's patent. Was that guy named White? I can't remember what his name was. And And boom, now you have the first real revolver that we think of where the bullets come in the back, and that was the Smith & Wesson Model 1. Well, they first had the cartridge or patent the cartridge, and guess what that was? 22 short. So the best cartridge ever made in the world was invented back in 1854, coming up in a couple weeks. And that's an ideal day to go to the range and shoot 22 short in homage. I'll take the calendar here, which has no ads on it, and I'll drop it in the list here so people can click on it. Head over there, save it for showing to friends or something. I don't care. So we're here to talk about guns. Let's see if anybody's got any questions out there. DJ's leaving. We talk too much about history. He doesn't like talking about history. DJ doesn't look backwards. He doesn't even have review mirrors on his car. Smith & Wesson, making dreams come true. Yep, since 1850s. Ever since I started doing this, a little bit of history research or whatever for these different projects I did over the years, I always think of 1850, since that's when that's essentially when Smith & Wesson changed the playing field with bored through cylinders and real, cartridge fired revolvers. I think of everything like pre-1850 and after 1850. So for me, at least, that's, when somebody says like so-and-so invented the typewriter, I'm like, is that before the cylinder or after the cylinder? It also gives you an idea when you're watching a movie, did this happen before 1850 or after 1850? All right, well, so that took up a little bit of time. I didn't know how much time it would take, but since it's Friday, I figured it's appropriate to perhaps look at a calendar. I think something else I'll do is check out my playlist over on the YouTube. I don't like YouTube that much anymore. They were really nice for a while. It was a great place to do your content, but there's always a but. And, there's people that have acted like YouTube has been shitty over the years, for sure. And definitely if they got their ass kicked or they were doing something dumb, knowingly or not, they would complain about it. That's fine. It is what it is, as Ghost would say. But lately, there's no way to disagree that their logarithm is nuts. So either their logarithm is nuts and they don't care, or their logarithm is nuts because they built it to be a bunch of jerks. Towards guns, and really not just guns, but like way over the line, I would say. In other words, like different topics that really have nothing to do with guns that are getting removed as well. I'm trying to get rid of all these shorts because I don't like having a bunch of shorts. Plus, I've been watching a lot of car repair stuff, so I'm removing some car repair stuff that I don't need in here. All right, we can get rid of all this stuff. Oh, no, click the wrong buttons here. So like I say, if anybody's got any specific questions about anything, let us know. Got AI here, so you're not going to just get like some random walk around answer, but instead you'll get an answer from people who know everything already. Had a lot of car repair videos in here. All right. Nope. I just said nope. Don't keep doing that if I say nope. My computer's being weird to me. A lot of times you think, oh, that guy's on the internet all the time. His computer's not going to be weird to him. No, my computer's being weird to me right now. So I'm closing a bunch of stuff. Maybe I had too much stuff open. They keep shoving me into my what are these called? My channels that I subscribe to. But I was going to do this one day anyway, so I guess we'll just do this right away. Let's go back to here. Why do I have to keep doing this? I thought this was supposed to be smoother interface than it is. But I'm back again. So there we go. So we can get rid of the gun calendars. There we are. So I was just going to do a feature one of these 2 days to go in and look at some of the channels we subscribe to. I'm just going to start at the top. I don't know why Gizzard's at the top. Oh, because these are the ones that I pay. Am I paying Clover for a subscription? What the hell? So I guess we're paying Gizzard. Would make sense. Gizzard goes live, right? He's a live chat person. I value the live chat, so I subscribe to that channel. Hillbilly Up also goes live. Hillbilly goes live on Saturdays. Gizzard goes live on Mondays, and then Yankee and I go live. I go live on his channel every so often nowadays, like every couple of months. But back in the day, we used to go live all the time, and he still goes live like daily, right? So I understand that. I'm gonna have to make a serious financial decision here about whether we're paying Clover. What am I paying Clover for? That sounds ridiculous. But at one time, Clover went live, and that must have been when he conned me into paying for his channel. Mark is asking if I've made any patches lately. No, they have not. I have 3 embroidery machines right now. So my old one just got destroyed, and 3, 4, 5 years ago at this point, we did a Kickstarter to get a new embroidery machine. Now, I didn't buy the top of the line one, but at the time I bought like the 2-year-old one or something like that, and which was still amazing. I think it was just as good, or did I buy the exact one? I can't remember anymore. I think I might have bought the same model as what I had, but since I bought it like years later, it was different. Or I bought a model up. I really can't remember anymore. Anyhow, then after that, I got a second one, and I think I did get a third one. So I have 3 embroidery machines right now. We also have some other tools for working on patches. However, I just haven't had the time or the room right now. I live like what do they call them? Like a hoarder. I got too much junk here. I got to get rid of some junk. Then I'll have some elbow room, and then we'll probably start making some patches and other things again. But thanks for asking. We do have tons and tons and tons of inventory. So whenever we get the store up and running again, we'll have those going out like hotcakes. Outcast is saying YouTube doesn't seem to like anything that can actually help someone. I mean, no, they have their advertisers, and that's where they act like they make their money. They're really making their money off of data, I would suspect. But whatever, they're paying their bills with advertisers. And when those advertisers were motivated or manipulated, however you want to look at it, to get all upset about some consequence or some perceived consequence that had something to do with guns, they, unlike the government, which has a law, the protection of lawful, the protection of lawful commerce in arms, I think, PLACA. But because a private company doesn't have to oblige by some mandatory like defense of an accusation, they just took those accusations that were like, say, either, well, I'm going to say manipulated. They demanded that YouTube stop advertising gun stuff because of some atrocity that happened by a criminal, and YouTube said okay, and they never look back. YouTube doesn't give a shit. So I don't think they care about what can help or not help. I don't think they have a skin in the game. I think that they had advertisers that said, do this, and they were like, yes, sir, and did it. And since no one has ever told the advertisers to, edit or take another look at it or anything, I don't think anything else has changed just because of that one action. And we don't like to accept losses. We don't like to accept, being outplayed or anything, or we don't acknowledge it. So no one's acknowledged it, and we don't accept it as a thing. We just blame YouTube, and we just suffer essentially. But honestly, it would be nice if somebody who's getting paid by some of us would champion going over and making YouTube change their policies. He's tried, but he hasn't accomplished that. Let's see. If you speak of anything that bucks the system, it's a problem for YouTube. Just be dumb, shallow, and a good consumer. Well, they definitely would rather have us like not do anything that's controversial for sure. And then, like I say, I don't know, buck the system. Like, I don't know. Depends on what system you're talking about and how you're talking about saying it or something. Like what if you're talking about like, I'm going to vote the other way because I'm not happy. That's one thing. They're not going to suppress that. But if you're like, I'm going to knock the thing off the rails because I'm not happy, well, what do they know? So they're probably going to knock that down, or have a tendency to knock stuff down. I'm not defending them, but I can understand, like, we got to understand that these are just big tools. And if a tool doesn't work anymore, like 9mm, it worked for a couple of people in Europeans are tiny. right? They're always running away, so you're shooting them in the butt all the time. So 9mm works in Europe, I guess, probably, maybe back in the day, right? For some circumstances. But, everybody thinks that it works. So we have to break that thought process and get truth again. Just the reality of truth needs to come shining through again. Let's see. We got barbecue. He does shows on Thursday. However, or every other Thursday, maybe like occasionally on Thursday when he's not banned from the internet. I think he did one last night, in fact. However, you can't subscribe to his channel, so he's not subscribed to. Foss started doing a show again, live show. You can't subscribe to his channel either, so I'm not subscribed to it. I mean, you can subscribe, but you can't join their channel as a member or whatever it's called. Guns for Everyone is another channel that goes live, and they go live every other Wednesday-ish, most every other Wednesday. And if you're looking they're from Colorado, and they do a lot of interesting stuff. They're activists and instructors in that order, I'd say. So they usually have, different points of view than the mainstream. So it's worth listening to. Don't always have to agree with everything you hear on everybody's show, but I'd rather listen to stuff that's thought provoking and non sponsored than just listen to how great the new free thing I got was. Oh my goodness. See, some people are brainwashed and other people are open to the nuances of the non-metric calibers out there. So then we got Walk Talk America, and oh shit, did I click on it? I shouldn't have clicked on it. They also go live. I wouldn't say every week. They go live without telling anybody occasionally. I don't like it when people go live without telling anybody. I would never do that. We make it a practice. We've been live every single day since 2016, and we make it a practice to let everyone know, one, we're going to be live at the same time every day. We just don't know what time that is, so it hasn't been the same time. And then we let people know like up to 3 hours ahead of time, or as little as 3 minutes ahead of time. But that's the way it happens on the YouTube sometimes. So I am trying it in the middle of the day again, see if it works. It's not cooler, but I just painted my roof, so it's a little bit cooler. And mainly it just worked out for my schedule this week to do it this time. But if it works for other people, let me know. Like I could consider making this work on a regular. Then we got the Forge of Freedom, which is some attorneys an attorney out of Indiana. Interviews mostly, occasionally some insight on either news of the day or issues that are either, again, imminent or something to think about. Definitely worth checking out. They don't go live at all. They just do shows, and it used to be more regular than lately. I just think real life gets in the way for a lot of people, right? But not for Brooke. Oh, I guess we got Gun Owners Radio next. They also go live, and I don't know. I think I can be a channel member, but I decided not to be a channel member of theirs because I'm sick of paying YouTube. And look what happens. I forget that I'm subscribing, and somebody's getting rich over here off of me forgetting that I was a subscriber. But anyway, you wouldn't mind if Gun Owners Radio got rich. They're San Diego gun owners, really. And that's a live show. Well, it used to be a live show on Sundays. Now it's a fake ass live show. It's like a premiere. It's edited, and it is better as a live show. It's always better as a live show, but whatever. Until they do a live show again. Then you got Brooke, who does a live show, another live show host every single week. Here we go. So if we want to change things, right? We can either yell about our rights and our property, or we can yell that we're correct, like we're right because of the Constitution. But that doesn't change anybody's mind, and that doesn't make them leave us alone. What we really want is to make them go away, right? Like leave us alone. So we can't make them leave us alone. I wish that was possible, but we can't make them. The only thing we can do is, manage or manipulate them into understanding, or, educate them into understanding, illuminate, or, that kind of thing. So Brooke is working on that. If you think about the number of deaths that are out there from a firearm, 6 out of 10, 2/3, most of them are from suicide, and Brooke is the only one really working, besides Walk Talk America and one or two other organizations we may or may not talk about today. Brooke is really the only individual out there who's, I don't even know, like for years been live just about every Saturday, unless she's doing something like on the road or something. And she's an instructor, so most of the time she stays home instructing. So every once in a while, doesn't do her show, but when she doesn't, she usually has a fill-in show, something recorded. But every week, uh, a consistent effort to allow us to have a conversation about mental health the same way we would about our physical health. And that's an important step so that we can sound more useful when we're having conversations with ourselves and with the people who hate our property and our rights. What color you paint your roof? In regular paint or special paint? Oh no, definitely like an elastic stuff that's made out of like a rubber. It's a white, of course, to reflect. So it's got like UV. So it's going to paint the roof. Like out here, we just have flat roofs. At least I have a flat roof. 90% of the houses out here just have a flat roof because most of the time it's just up there to keep shade. We don't need it for rain that often. And then anyway, we have flat roofs. So they're just flat tar paper or tiles sometimes or something. But anyway, whatever it is, really, you can just paint it with this really thick paint. But it's not really paint. I mean, it comes out like paint and everything, but it's like what, elastic or something? Or I mean, rubber. They call it elastomeric, I think. And I was just thinking about this the other day. I'm gonna go look actually and find out. Let's see. Where did elastomeric coatings come from? Because I know they use the same stuff on the airplanes out here when they put them in storage, like deep storage. But I'm not sure if they made it for the roofs first or if they made it for the cockpits first. Let's see. Elastomeric coatings originated from the need for flexible, waterproof roofing solutions that could adapt to temperature changes and provide long-lasting protection. They've evolved over decades. That's not what I wanted. All right. Let's see. Did elastomeric coating come from airplanes or houses? Stupid robot. Answer my question already. Look at this. I had to ask this robot twice already. Yeah, I want your robot answer. Come on. Elastomeric coatings originated in the 1950s for industrial and military uses, including aircraft, before being adopted to roofs and buildings. That's what I kind of thought. If that's correct, if the robots are correct, then what I'm pouring on my roof as a paint was developed by the chemical companies. It's probably a petroleum product. It comes out and it's like a paint. I'm sure. I mean, most people are going to think it's like a paint, but it comes out and it turns into rubber pretty quick, like within an hour. And then it's like caulk or something. Like it's changed and it's designed to spread and to probably spread uniform if possible, like without any bubbles. Anyway, it's a pretty awesome paint. Costs $100 for 5 gallons. So for my place, it's 2 or 3 buckets, and depending on how much coverage I want, how much of the roof. This time I went all out and covered the whole roof. Probably need to do it every couple of years, 3 years even, and then each year you give it like a quick thin cover, and that'll cover any holes or cracks that might have happened, and then mainly make it white again and give it that UV so it reflects the sun, heat, and everything. So it's pretty good. Yeah, it's like a roof sealer up there. I don't know if it would work up north because it's really designed for the heat, and it'll get a little bit cold here in the winter or whatever, so it has to be able to not, it has to be able to handle an extreme of temperature, but it's probably way more useful down here. Now, I'm cheap and I know what it is. So if I was up north, I would probably paint stuff with it and see what happens. But I suspect like real weather would wail on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like actual rain on a regular basis would probably destroy it. I really don't know. But it does get cracks in it after some amount of time. It says maybe a year lifespan or something, but it doesn't. You got to put it up there every year. Or it might say a 5-year lifespan. It also depends on if you walk around in your roof or not. Range Minded Podcast, welcome, says, YouTube's pissing me off. They have increased the frequency of ads and it blows. Yeah, that's got to be annoying. I don't know. I get ads. I'm knocking on wood, so I don't jinx myself over here. I get ads and stuff. I don't get them that often. Now, here's the thing. I don't watch movies very often, and I mostly watch like live stuff. Now, again, if I am using YouTube for something else. Like right now, I'm going to take the cars over and do some tune-ups on a couple of them. And I've been watching videos on how to do the different things, like how to do the transmission flush, how to do the spark plugs, right? That kind of thing. So if I'm watching those kind of videos, I might be seeing ads, and maybe I just don't realize or I don't recognize, because you can't really fast forward through the ads on YouTube though. Back in the day, whenever you'd see a YouTube ad, you just refresh the page and it would just start playing the video from where it was and the ad would be gone. That quit working. I don't think that works as well as it used to. But I haven't noticed it, so I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with how we watch YouTube or something. I was just gonna say, like, if I'm watching a movie or something on YouTube, which I only do if I can't find it someplace else. But every once in a while, you find a movie on YouTube that you just can't find anywhere else. And if I'm watching like a full movie on YouTube, sometimes I'll get a commercial in there, and then I feel like I'm back in the 1980s because I'm not used to commercials, especially not in the middle of a movie where you don't want it to be. What they should do, in my opinion, and this would work, is when you pause, have a commercial happen. Because most people are only pausing to do something like go get something to eat or go to the bathroom or whatever, or they got a phone call. And when they pause, now you know that they're actively paying attention. Just to cut it off is more of like, hey, let's piss this person off. And it was Twinkies that pissed me off. Like Twinkies are the ones that came in and cut this movie off. I hate Twinkies now. You know what I mean? But if it was like, oh, I had to stop it anyway, I shut the movie off and now I'm turning it back on. Oh, a Twinkie. Maybe I do want a Twinkie. So you're welcome, Twinkie. I just made you a bunch of money. I should get some sort of a consultant check from Twinkies for that. Or I guess Hostess or whoever makes them now. But I'm not condoning them. Don't eat that kind of stuff. Go to the store and make something out of like 3 or 4 ingredients and it'll taste just as good and be better for you. Smash up a banana, right? And then like put something in there, like some oatmeal or something, and then wrap something in the middle. What would be the middle of a Twinkie that's good for you? But anyway, put that in there. I don't know why these are in the order they're in, honestly. Maybe it's a frequency of how often I watch these channels, but I don't watch Milspec Monkey very often. He did make a video the other day about the different new, I don't even know what it's called. Magpul came out with a new color. Is it like Flat Coyote FTE or something? So Monkey went through and just put a bunch of things down like he used to do this all the time on the internet before there was YouTube. But, he just compared it to all the other colors that are out there, which was kind of useful, especially if you're going to be buying them. You want to see how they're going to look compared to all the other stuff you got. This is a channel that just reposts hearings from the Ninth Circuit Court. Interesting channel. Maybe you could subscribe to it if you wanted to. You don't have to. Immigrant gun owner. I learned about this guy, I think at NRA. When everybody was at NRA show, I think that's when either somebody was on his show or somebody mentioned his show. Dead Warrior Society, that's another good channel. I think you can find all these by just going to can't you go to other people's who they subscribe to? And then you'll see the same list here. I think you can go to other people's subscribes. But Dead Warrior Society, or if you want a link to one of these, let me know. I can repost it out in the comments over here. But Dead Warrior Society is some kind, I think he's a Green Beret from, like he's retired or whatever, young guy, and like a history professor or something, like some kind of history, or at least it's like interest. So really cool series, a couple of cool series on Rogers Rangers and the Aztecs, just interesting stuff that he's researched. And then he does like chapters, I guess you'd say, like 1 hour chunks as he kind of describes whatever it is he's talking about. It's a pretty cool channel. Combat Story. I don't know. I haven't watched Combat Story in a while, but that's a military interview show. And those were super cool for a long time. And they're still interesting. It's just that, there's been a lot of them. So a lot of times now they're having people on that they've had on before, getting more into their story or maybe their new book. And then there's a lot of crossover. So people that we've seen on other podcasts before, which is not bad. Gives you an opportunity to see that, the different hosts are going to ask different questions, and people are going to have some experience, I guess, with a podcast. So watching somebody on their first appearances on a podcast as a guest versus their 20th, they're going to be a different person. They're going to have, gained a lot of experience doing that kind of thing. Reasonable Person podcast. I think that's Paul. I can't think of his last name, but that's Paul's podcast with two other people I don't know. And I think they go live on Saturday to do their show now, right on top of Hillbilly, I think. Maj is in here, Mike Ritland. Mike is military podcast. Maj doesn't do anything now. He just like does stuff about the news. Like, what happened on the news? Oh my gosh. Dragon Man, awesome, amazing museum and shooting range in Colorado. Locked, Cocked, and Unfilters is Tony's when we do the chat with Tony on Saturdays. That's one of his other podcasts. He's on like 3 or 4 podcasts on the regular. Chris from Poro, he's out there right now. I think he was out there a minute ago. But Chris does a lot of reviews and stuff out of Ohio. Definitely goes to the shows and things like that. Used to do a live show. Did he say you're doing it on the regular again? I don't know if he said he's doing it on the regular again. Travis used to do a live show. He does reviews, but I think he's kind of dipped out at this point. USA Shooting is the like kind of the official United States organization for, is it Olympic shooting? I think so. Now you got 4 Boxes Diner. Guy who yells all the time and writes books, and everything Trump does is great for 2A. Then you've got Business Reform. I'm going to stop at my own website here and then quit doing this. But Business Reform is a non-gun related channel, other than I think he's talked about being pro-gun or whatever. But it's basically a privacy channel. It's a guy that was some kind of an engineer, and then he went to be a representative in, I can't remember if it was in Indiana, I think, maybe Ohio, but I think it was Indiana. And he was like a local representative for some branch of government for an amount of time, like one of their, whatever they call like their elected representative. I don't think it was a Congress, but whatever they call like that branch of government at that level. And then once he was done with that, he's become an activist for privacy. So a knowledgeable guy who has some experience. He's an older guy. And he podcasts now on the regular talking about privacy issues, such as like the cameras that are around and the things that happen with your phones and when you're online, and the agreements that we agree to when we use these platforms and stuff, and what they do with that data, and the concerns and then the greater issues with that. So it's an interesting show that is, since there's a lot of people that will hide behind privacy or online security as their topic, but then they're really just trying to sell you their phone, or they're trying to sell you a VPN or something useless. VPNs are useless, by the way. You have them on almost all your browsers for free. So I hope you're not paying for a VPN out there. If you are, reconsider it. You don't need a VPN. You don't need to be paying for a VPN. But anyway, like there's a lot of people that do stuff for security and privacy that have an agenda. And I forget his name, but his agenda is probably that he wanted to go on a road trip and meet a bunch of people to talk about this stuff, because that's what he's doing right now. He's on some like massive road trip to do speaking engagements. So an interesting channel. It's also an experience to watch a YouTube channel go from like, hey, I'm just a regular guy and I'm here to, interact with this community that I found interest in, or I have a passion for, on the YouTube, I guess. And then once you become a little bit more popular, it's like, yeah, okay, I really like this. This is cool. Like, and then more than likely there's some money coming in at some point, or at least it's making it financially worthwhile, making your time worthwhile. And then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you know what? Let's go take this up a notch. Let's get some merch. Okay, yeah, no problem. Let's get on the road and let's get some speaking engagements, and let's become a thing where you pay tickets to show up. So, I'm not saying it's nefarious or nothing. It's just, if you want to watch that, he's on that path. And I mean, I can't count how many times that's happened over the years on YouTube, and it'll keep happening. So we're watching it with a guy who, like I say, is older and has a lot of experience and seems to be coming from a good place. So be curious to watch how his rise goes and how long it stays. Then you got Reverend Ken Blanchard, who has changed his channel quite a bit. I think now it's honestly, I have no idea, because it was guitar stuff for a while. I think he pulled the guitar stuff over to his other channel, and then this is probably his first channel, I think, because it has 1,000 subscribers, but I'm not sure. Anyway, as I say, he changes his thing up every once in a while, and right now it's the Faith and Journey podcast. And then we got our channel. So I guess I'm subscribed to my own channel. What do you know? 23,000 subs over there. And that's our gear channel. So we post a lot of stuff over there, a bunch of Amazon reviews, get stuck up there. But, we've got 5,000 videos over there or something. Oh, no, 3,600. Sorry. Got almost 4,000 videos over there. And, we've had that channel since 09, I think. Let's find out. Does it say? Down towards the bottom here, joined in 2009, January 2nd of 2009. So that channel has so many reviews on tools and gear and like adventures that we've been on over the years. It's about to have a bunch of auto stuff. My cars, as I do the car repairs, I'll be making videos on that and posting it. But anyway, I had that on the screen as I was looking for something here, and I figured, okay, let's talk about some of the things that we subscribe to. I keep seeing it on the side of the screen. I think everybody gets it over here, right? When you open up your YouTube and you click on these little thingies up here, you're going to get this thing that opens up. And I always, maybe click on Brooke if she's going to go live or whoever's going live next. And then I got all these others, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I should just do like a whole live show. So maybe that counts as the whole live show on that. But if you wanted a link to one of those or something, let me know. But what I was going to do is drop down a little bit. And since it's Friday, you know what I should have done is, can I do that? Now, maybe. See, this is why YouTube's being goofy on me. I should probably, nope, that's just regular. You know what I'll do? I'll just refresh. How about that? Let's see. Krabby says, welcome. Krabby says, we need to start doing subcategories with 2A creators that concentrate on their local areas, like VDCL and Brooke, etc. Interesting. So what I was going to click on now, you can't see it anyway. I'm going to click on history down here, and that'll take us to show the channels or whatever, the videos that we've been watching most recently, or maybe way down my list of channels I was watching like 2 months ago. Maybe not. There we go. So last night was barbecue. Come on. Last night was barbecue. And then I forget where I found this. I think I was just minding my business, and this video was a suggested for me type of thing. So I don't know if anybody knows this guy, because I don't know if he's a gun guy or nothing. Oh, you know what I need to do? Since I'm yawning and we're an hour into the show, you're getting a commercial so that I can take a break and drink some of this mango kombucha. Let's ask Gizzard if he's ever tried some kombucha yet. Let's see, how much time do I need? Let's see what this one is. I don't remember what this one is.
Sorry to bother you, Ripley, but do you happen to know where I might find help designing a logo?
That's easy. Just head over to gearwebsites.com and they can help you out. While you're there, why not check out all the wonderful 2A related items for sale? Jimmy, put that down.
Gearwebsites.com. There you go. The illusion of privacy? I don't know. Oh, you mean from being around? Well, I don't know. Then Range Binder says, one day I'll figure out how to make it work on YouTube. I don't know. I would say my advice for real on it is YouTube is useful. YouTube is a good place for some things. And it can be the main channel for a lot of people. And it has been the main channel for a lot of people. But I don't think it has to be your main channel. So in 2026, for sure, there's other places. And just, I would have always given the advice, have a website mainly. And then everything you do on the socials points to your website. And if you can figure out a way in your system or your workflow or your process, however you want to call it, if you can figure out a way to do stuff and then in the flow, like have it, end up at your website, either as a blog post or as some kind of a new page or something on your website, stuff that matters, stuff that's worth keeping. And then let the little fluff, the hey, welcome back from your vacation type of stuff doesn't need to go on your website archive forever, but that kind of stuff stays on whatever social platform. But when you put some effort into what's my favorite thing to take to the range or something, and that's like a blog, that's like something you worked on, you want that to eventually go somewhere where it's not going to get lost. It's not going to get deleted, I should say. It's not going to be blacklisted or ghosted or any of those weird words. And it's not like just because it's on your website, you're somehow going to succeed, but at least over time, you won't be vulnerable or susceptible to the whims of these platforms. That being said, there's tons of channels out there that are successful and offer good ideas, good plans. A lot of it is being in the right place at the right time. I wouldn't call that luck, because you have to be persistent. You have to be doing stuff over and over and over, maybe in different ways or in different places or different times or something, in order to cover bases or try to, to experiment. But luck would be like you're just standing there and all of a sudden you get a viral video and you're, without even trying, you became super famous or rich or something. But, in other words, you shouldn't have to depend on that. There are things that you can do consistently that will eventually pay off. And if your goal is I need to be viral and famous immediately, everybody's screwed, right? Like that, you can't make that happen. But if you want to if you consider success like making a living or paying for your projects, that's easily done on the internet these days. But I don't know. We don't turn it into a workshop here, but I'm definitely open to that. And we may do like a specific day of the week where we just talk about, that kind of thing. Because if we can't help each other out, then there's no point. Like if you think of everyone as competition, everyone as a competitor, that's awesome. You can do that if you want, but there's no point. The competitor is your audience's options for their attention, like whatever else is taking the attention. And that doesn't, that's not necessarily just another YouTube channel, because there's so many other things, it's the movies and real life and everything else. So anyway, there's lots of ways to succeed out here and have fun with different projects. Anyway, that being said, I don't know who all has seen this guy before, but he's some machinist, I suspect. I only watched like a portion of this video, and then I got sick of it and I like fast forwarded through it. I don't know how long it is. It's 14 minutes. I probably watched like a minute of it. But I seen it because I'm like, oh, okay, so he made a gun. That's interesting. So I wonder how he addressed, the law of that. And I looked at the comments and I kind of fast forwarded through the video and I didn't see anyone address it anywhere. So I don't know if that's cool, but I don't think we win by just ignoring the NFA, removing the NFA from history, or not from history, but removing the NFA from existence so that it's just in history and that's it. That's how we win. So I don't get this. And I don't know if he probably wasn't trying to do anything, but at the same time, it's a pretty big like omission to not even include that. I don't know if would you say that's irresponsible? Would you say that doesn't matter? Or is that like some kind of cool freedom kind of flex or what? Speaking of flex, I don't know what the deal is here. This guy, I seen this also, just came up. I left it in here. But this is some kind of big, like just structure, I guess you'd call it. He built some stands. For some reason, he made it waist high. I think I would have made it a little higher and put something underneath it. What's the point of having it just sit there? Anyway, he made it waist high, and then it's just corrugated metal that angles down to a piece of gutter. And I think he painted it, which makes no sense. But anyway, then it collects water. So it's a rainwater harvesting thing. So a couple of things, like one, I would make it out of metal so that it could be cleaned and it's not plastic. I wouldn't want a bunch of plastic in my water. And then I would use metal tubes to get it to wherever I'm going and not a bunch of plastic. That's just me. But I would have put it up in the air. Like, why did he put this thing at waist height? And then the other thing is the size. Like, I don't get the size. I assume he put it at waist high because he thinks somehow it's not going to catch as much air, but I'm pretty sure at waist high, it's just as vulnerable to getting blown away as anywhere else. Anyway, what do you think? I'm going to get rid of it. I just saw that the other day and I was like, huh. Then you got Yankee getting all pissed about guns being shipped to your thing. So I don't know. Yankee's Yankee, right? But there's like 34 executive actions. They've got less than a month now before they're all going to end. The last time I looked, which I need to go look at them again. It's not like I'm going to affect anything, but at least I'll understand, we'll know when we look. But the last time I looked, there were very few comments on any of them. And the comments that were there were from us, from the gun side. So that's good, I guess. It's my worst fear was that the antis were going to use this to gain momentum, flex, and learn. And we would also be failing because every time they do something amazing and we just ignore it, we're losing. Like we can ignore anything you want. You don't win by ignoring, like they're just going to get stronger and better. And then we're just not going to know it by ignoring them. It's stupid. So anyway, I was concerned about that, but Yankee seems to be super concerned that if you allow this one to go through, that somehow gotcha. Now we gotcha. So I don't know if you agree with that one or not. Feel free to leave a comment on it. Not on his video, over here. Here's Four Boxes Diner. Look, Trump said something. Trump's court said something, and that's good or bad. So I can't remember what he said here. Supreme Court decision ends terrible anti-gun strategy. I do not remember that one. I actually watched a good chunk of that video, and then I stopped. So I don't know. I'm not trying to dick. I'm not trying to be a dick. I just couldn't, I have to be in the right mood to handle that guy's video, which I'm sure people have to be in the right mood to handle these videos. So I'm not saying that's good or bad. Outcast is saying, I don't think privacy and devices go together very well for the average person now that flock cameras are collecting Bluetooth device data. I'm going to go through the week over here, and then I'll get into privacy again, because I do have some stuff to share on privacy, I suppose. Range Minded is saying, the way I look at it, we, the 2A creators, are all on the same team. We should have a unified goal of bringing more people into the understanding of rights and liberty, for sure. We don't want to be in lockstep by any means. Like, we're not trying to attract just one group of people that want to be in lockstep with us. And unified, yeah, okay, I'm with you. Goal, I'm 100% behind. It's just that since our goals are all going to be different, there's no way we can all be going to our goals in the same way. We have to learn that and tolerate that a little bit too. But on the same thing, there's going to be a spectrum of goals, right? If we understand that goals are different, then we know that the goals are going to go from left to right or up or down or whatever you want to say. Like there's going to be some kind of a disbursement of the goals, right? And when that happens, whatever the extremes are, the furthest left and the furthest right of the goals almost might look like they're in opposition. And that's where it's our job to be smart enough to go, oh, you know what, though? We're all coming from the same place, which means these goals aren't that different. They might suggest if you started over here, the goals are completely opposite, but we're not starting over there. We're starting over here. We have all this understanding and we have all this, resource, and we have all this other stuff going on that we're not over there, and just making it a black or white issue. It's like, it's not, it's a bigger issue than that. Anyway, let's see. The last 10 years have shown, our Outcast is saying, the last 10 years have shown me people in the gun community are just as petty as anything else. We have different goals and everyone wants the credit. Yeah, I hear you. Most people want credit. Yes. Not everybody's looking for credit, which isn't good. I mean, I don't think that's always good or bad. People that don't want credit or aren't seeking credit can often be exploited or used, and that's not great. So, and then the other part of it, like you're saying, people that are looking for credit, like you can't hardly trust shit from people that are just looking for their fame. In fact, I don't trust anybody who's looking for fame, like even politicians, right? Like they have to. I don't care. Like, yeah, that is part of your job, but I don't like it, and I don't like you. Like you automatically lost by wanting that job. So in some respects, most content creators have already lost by being wanted to be a content creator in my mind. Although, like I say, it's free country, freedom of speech, all that shit. You can do whatever you want. And after all these years in the industry, like there's nothing that does always succeed. And there's nothing that, well, there's some things that always fail, but there's some things that most things succeed and fail. So there's nothing that's always right. There's just tastes and whatnot. Let's see. Outcast is saying, I've seen rallies get slammed because of credit debates. Yeah, that's frustrating. You're talking about 2A rallies, of course. So let's see. Getting back to what we've been watching this week. Maj had a thing about, the robot taxi. So I guess some kids were in the back of a robot taxi, where the robot drives it around and there's nobody in it but you. And they got in the back and they were drinking and squirting squirt guns around, either inside or outside the vehicle. So the robot took them to the police station, and I think they got arrested. So I don't know, like, are we supposed to get upset that robots are going to follow the law? And if you're a dumbass in front of a robot, the robot will try to arrest you. I don't know if that's that big a deal to me. would we want robot cars to not pay attention to kids in the back getting drunk? Like, I don't know if that logic works. People might be upset about robot cars. I get it. But guess what? People were upset about automobiles too. We have good and bad people. We have 9mm shooters, and then we have the rest. We have the 9mm shooters, and then we have good people. Let's put it that way. Let the gizzard. Oh, we're not allowed to talk about this. I can't even show this. This is an off limits members only show. What happened? Okay. See how YouTube's being weird to me? Now I have to drive all the way down here. Anyway, Gizzard had an off air show for members only. He gives away knives and those things. Am I allowed to say that? Maybe that's a secret. Yep. See, like I say, I'm changing out doing some tune-ups. So I got a bunch of automobile videos in here. We had a noon show, I think, earlier this week. This is a noon show also. So if you are listening to this, here's the thing. This goes up as live because we do everything live. And then the robots take it and make it a podcast. So now it's an audio podcast, and that'll be tomorrow or next day. I don't know when, in the future, right? And then that'll get turned into a blog. So it doesn't matter if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, or if you're reading this. Give us some feedback. Let us know. Should we be doing this show live during the day? I'd rather be doing it in the middle of the night personally, but that doesn't work out because I'm getting up early to work on the cars tomorrow. Anyway, so we had a show earlier this week. Yankees giving away some ammo, which I think is pretty cool. If you're looking to brand for something, might as well brand with ammo. Of course, he shouldn't be talking about it on YouTube. He's an idiot. There's Slim Cowboy getting a tattoo or something. We had Walk Talk America talking with PJ Smith. That was kind of an interesting one. I really like listening to Walk Talk America. You know, their whole goal is to, what do they say, breach the gap between the gun community and the medical community. And, you know, when you think of like a doctor, they might get told, oh, okay, this person has what do they call it? Like a companion animal or something. So there might be some kind of up training or some sort of specialized understanding that a doctor is going to be is going to be made available to doctors. They might even be a specialist in like understanding some aspect of a person's character or their nature or their lifestyle or something. So like I say, if they had like a companion animal, doctors might be told like, hey, when you're working with someone with a companion animal, maybe don't walk into the room and start yelling and screaming and waving your arms around. That might freak out the companion animal, which might freak out your patient, right? Like they might be told basic shit like that. Well, they never get educated or instructed or offered resources on gun ownership. So when a doctor comes in a room and says, I think the house is more dangerous with guns in it, and you have children in your house, so I'm going to ask you, the parent, if there's guns in the house. Well, the doctor might not understand that that's an invasive question to most people or to a lot of gun owners, that's something that they choose to keep private, and they're not interested in talking to you the same way they might not want to talk to you about their religion or their politics. It's like a discussion. It's a topic that they may not be interested in talking about publicly. Maybe there's other people in the room. Like, who knows? It's a personal conversation, a personal topic. So, that kind of thing, like training doctors to have that awareness, not necessarily that specific, I'm just picking something out of thin air, but I like Walk Talk America because they've tasked themselves with this challenge, right? To make the medical community in general more aware of what gun owners are, who gun owners are, so that they're not manipulated by the antis. They don't say it, but that's a big part of it. I don't know if they're doing it intentionally or not, but by hardening the medical community against propaganda, they're really helping everybody, but they're helping us for sure. Anyway, then at the same time, Walk Talk America also attempts to reach to the firearms community and let them understand more about the medical side. I don't know how they would say it, but that's basically what they're doing. Anyway, in this conversation, they have a kind of an interview. Two of the people from Walk the Talk America have an interview with PJ Smith, who I guess has worked in a couple of different companies, and now he works for PSA, Palmetto State Armory. And I guess they're going to be doing some work together in the future. So this was a pretty interesting conversation about what they're doing together, but also during the PJ describes a lot about the company and the companies that he's worked for, and PSA specifically, like lot of details about the company. They're just pretty interesting. Uh, Hillbilly also does a private chat I'm not allowed to talk about for his members. So that's one of the things you get by subscribing to a channel, access to their shows that they do. Not every channel does, but some of them do. Let's see. This is Stoger. Ben does a live. Well, he doesn't do live. He does these like reaction, I guess, to comments. So he goes online and reads a bunch of comments and then goes live and rants for a little while. That instigates a bunch of new comments, and then he kind of just bounces back and forth with that. He's interesting because he's a competitive shooter and he's constantly like on the road. So often he does these videos from different hotel rooms and different places, and it's interesting. I don't really keep up with competitive shooting, but that's essentially the gossip of competitive shooting, or a portion of the gossip right there. Another one of our shows. That was with Tony. We did a 4-hour show last Saturday because we won't be doing one tomorrow. So we did a 4-hour one last week. A couple of other of our shows. Then we have Forge of Freedom. Talked about him when we were talking about the people I subscribe to. He had a conversation with Dr. John Adine, who is I think he's like the membership guy for Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership, DRGO, which is an organization that was founded by a doctor here in Tucson, I think, back in the olden days, like the 90s or something even, and challenged to some of the accusations on the other side that all medical doctors are somehow, the medical field is somehow all anti-gun. And they, for a while, were able to champion that concept because there wasn't doctors standing up on the pro-gun side on a regular basis. So DRGO, or Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership, I wish they did more, but they are doctors, so they're only going to do what they can do. This was an interesting conversation for about 40 minutes there. Then we have Ben again talking about stuff, and he's saying how red dots. I'm trying to talk, yawn, and think at the same time. It wasn't working. So he's talking about red dots and who likes them and who doesn't. And I find it constantly entertaining, the amount of experience people have and the amount of dedication they have to the red dot. Like there's a relationship there that's proportional. Is that the way I say it? So then we got Chris, some 40, talking about the weirdest gun at the gun con thing you went to. And then Pack Rat does a show on Sundays. Chris from Top Shot Chris, has a book coming out. He's already written Top Shot, I think it was like How to Shoot or something. But this is his second book, and it's called The Purple Heart Battalion. It's on Kickstarter right now. I think it's about a third of the way to the funding on that, if you're interested in checking it out. But I guess there was a battalion of people in World War II, and they're essentially not, people don't talk about how, their families were probably at the camps in California while they were fighting for the country. And, there's a lot of movies out there about different people who fought while they weren't appreciated. And this is going to be a book that's, I think, unique. So anyway, it's an interesting Kickstarter. So if you're interested in supporting a project by a gun person about a piece of World War II history, check that out. I don't think he's done much content on it, or if he has, I've missed it. I saw this on a post somewhere and went over and checked it out, and then found this launch video, I guess, which only has 29 views. So definitely worth sharing that one if you're interested. There's Pack Rat. Speaking of Pack Rat. Let's see. Outcast saying, I also think it's harder for people to admit fault when they make a mistake after making public statements. They just wait for the next thing to consume the feeds. That's interesting. That would be an interest. I wonder if the AIs are going to be able to help us research that. But that is interesting. Like that's something that you can have the feeling, like the gut feeling. But you know what I mean? Once you like research it, maybe it comes true or not. But more than likely it's true because like you're saying, you got like the gut feeling. But I would say, I don't know how you would actually track that. Like I say, I wonder if the robots could figure that out. But that's interesting because well, let's say, I don't know if they call it a mistake, but like, let's say you back a company because you go to SHOT Show or someplace, you go meet this company and they are desperate for attention, like a lot of little companies are. So they want to work with you and they give you a gun. So of course you're going to say it's amazing and it's so great. Then, something happens, turns out that, oh no, it wasn't a 380 or a 45. It turns out they only made it in 9 mm. So of course the company goes out of business and it's disgraced, right? It goes out of business and disgrace because of that. And now you got videos up there that are like, this gun is the best gun ever. Like, you may not take down those videos, I guess. Most people probably, well, I don't even know. But I would say, yeah, they probably would take down those videos, especially once that company went down in disgrace, right? But how would you track that, right? Like, especially because they're going to take it down. So that would be interesting to find out. Because you're not going to find out. You could go look for one person. Who cares about one person? Just in general, if that's the case, like if that's the tendency or not. I mean, I suppose it is, but yeah, that's interesting. Because what would be cool is if you could figure it out. If like the robots could use some kind of numbers to figure that out, then you could have like a record of it. You could have some sort of a dashboard somewhere that shows people which channels are like following through and which channels just hide behind the flow, hide behind the stream. That's the way I'm going to call it, hiding behind the stream, because that's true. And I think I notice it for products all the time because I'm not stupid. I go to SHOT Show and everything. I mean, I don't go to everything. I go to SHOT Show and I do go to the whole SHOT Show. There's a bunch of people that walk around and hang out and never go anywhere. Like, they do not see nothing. You can find out easily by asking people what's in the law enforcement rooms. Most of them will just say, I never go to the law enforcement rooms, and admit it. But the ones that act like they go to all the SHOT Show, no, they don't. They go to chunks of it. I go to all the SHOT Show. Like, the only thing I don't do at SHOT Show is a thing called the new products room or whatever it's called. Like, there's this area that's called like the new products, and it's kind of neat because they give people the opportunity to put their new product in there. So it's essentially like an extract of SHOT Show. You see only the new products. But I've been going there since 2005, and I don't know when they changed it, but forever it had been, you can't go in there and take pictures. Or no, I think it's still like that. So there's no point in going in there for me. Like, I don't care that they put everything together. That's handy. That's really nice. But if I can't take pictures, it's wasting my time. So I never go in there. That's the only thing I don't do at SHOT Show. I did find out, though, I think from Jeff, that if I went to this breakfast, which I never go to anymore, that USCCA, they offer breakfast to media at once at SHOT Show, one day. They don't change the time or anything. They always make it at the same time. Some of us can't get there that early, but they don't care. Anyway, one breakfast. Anyway, I missed that. But I think during that time, you're allowed to take pictures. It might be the third day or the second day. I can't remember. Anyway, I go to the rest of SHOT Show, and I notice the companies that are making new things, and sometimes I'll listen to them. I'll talk to them. I don't always talk to them, but I'll listen to them, because most of the time, here's the thing: if it's a new company, there's somebody already standing there asking them about it. So I don't need to talk to them if I can listen to what they're saying to somebody else. So if I can stand there and hear what they're throwing out there, I can tell right away if they're bullshitting or not. Like, we all know when somebody's bullshitting us. So some companies are out there like, I made a goofy looking thing that might or may not work, but I got a reason for it, and I'm passionate, and I'm a real person. I'm down. Like, that's what it's all about, right? And then there's somebody that's like, hey, I think you chumps will buy this. I mean, I made this new thing that's so important. Yeah, like, pass. I'm not even going to bother taking my picture of it. So I've seen a lot of this stuff. And what happens is you go and see that stuff. You figure out who's the con artist and who's the legit. And then you come home from there and you see which one of the content creators was chatting up who. You know what I mean? So as soon as I see somebody chatting up the garbage, I know that they're bullshit. So yeah, there's a bunch of them that I hear what you're saying, like, that are just going to hide in the stream because they don't care. Like, they're not keeping score. Their only score is if they make more money or if they get more guns at the end of the day. Let's see. So now Krabby's saying, have you seen that new Dragon pistol? It's interesting. No, but that's what Stoger was talking about in this other video. And he had talked about it before. So I only know about it from him talking about it. Maybe Christmas 740 has talked about it. He likes guns more than me, or like that kind of gun more than me. but it's a 9mm. So one, it's dumb. And then it's made for like competitive shooters, I think. So, yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's like me looking at a Formula One car. Like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I don't want it. I don't even want to drive it. I'm curious about it. Maybe that's it. So I've seen about it, but then I think it was in Ben's like first video talking about it when I think he said he bought two of them. When he bought it, the reason he bought it, I guess, is because it comes apart all goofy. And then I think I might have watched a video because him describing it and me watching a video is better. So that's about as much as I know about it. It's like $1,200 or $1,700, so I'm not buying it. I feel like I'm missing something. Pat Grat saying he's being in and out. If I'm missing a comment, I guess I can tell if I clicked on a comment or not, but I might have blown off a comment. I apologize about that. It's one of the hazards of running a live show. I think we've just got down to our own shows again then, so that's sort of what's been going on this week that way. It didn't work out as well as I'd like. Back in the day when I would do a wrap-up show for the week, I would spend way too much time, like more than an hour, getting it all prepared and ready. And yeah, I mean, obviously when you spend an hour getting it prepared and ready, it's better. But no, I got very little feedback, so I'm not prepared to spend that kind of time on something that nobody's going to give a shit about. So I'll go live like this and we'll chat about stuff and we'll see how that works. Unless something changes, and then we'll add more production value or whatever. Let's see. So Pat Grat saying, hey, I was just wondering, has everyone been getting notifications of my videos? I haven't seen that many views. I have no idea. They probably get notified in the stream of other people that get notified, but how many people watch their notifications? And you got to think, there's people, like, I don't get it. Like, people that don't pay attention, I guess. They don't care. They don't know how the system works. I've done this. So it's not like I don't do it ever, but I don't do it very often. I don't do it on this channel ever anymore. But there's people that will post, 25 videos. And if you post 25 videos, I post them so that they go live for the next 25 days, once a day. But a lot of people will just post 25 videos. There you go. And when you post 25 videos, you hog up, 25 slots in somebody's feed, whoever subscribed to you. So until they unsubscribe to you because you're doing stupid shit like that, you block out everything else that's happening that day to other people. So I guess what I'm saying is, if people that are subscribed to you have people in their feed who are spamming or just dropping a lot of videos at it, like in batches, then you can't rely on a feed. There's no secrets to any of this, though. Oh, let's see. Going back to privacy. What was that question about privacy? So Outcast earlier said, I don't think privacy and devices go together very well for the average person now that flock cameras are collecting Bluetooth device data. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, when we had, I don't know, I can't think of something off the top of my head, but, we've gone, it's not like we're new to this. Like I don't know how old everybody is, but let's go backwards. You have a smartphone. I don't know. I guess there's people out here that are so young that they've not, that's it, that they've only ever dealt with smartphones. But before that, what do we have? Little flip phones, like cell phones and pagers, right? Like everybody walked around with a pager for a number of years, even if you had a cell phone, because we couldn't text or anything on a phone right away, could we? So those first cell phones, we dealt with that. You go further back than that, and we had phone booths, and people would carry around little books with pieces of paper in it, and we would write down people's phone numbers in that book and keep track of that. We had day planners, like little 3-ring binders and shit with everybody's stuff in it. And what would happen in those days if someone stole your binder? Like, how many people made a copy of their binder back then? How many people took pictures of their binder so that they'd have, photocopies? Nobody, because we didn't do that shit. So you could literally be minding your business one day and have a cup of coffee spill on your binder, and now you have to go back and try to figure out how to get into all your banks and shit. There was no internet, so it was just nuts. It was crazy. So we've had problems. We've had difficulty dealing with technology, a bunch of times over the years. I'm not saying this is the same, because it could be worse, but it's not necessarily worse. So I don't get too concerned about all the stuff that's going on, although, yes, there's a lot of stuff going on, and we should be aware of the stuff that's going on. So I'm not saying I have all the answers or anything, but I can tell you that in a world that's changing, be skeptical of the person who does claim to have all the answers, right? So you're right. The phones that we carry are getting more and more capable all the time, and because the hardware on them is very capable, oftentimes it can be upgraded in ways that we can't even imagine at first because it's through the software. So in other words, just with a software update, they can change things the way that our phone works and use a microphone as a camera. Or I mean, that's a weird example. Maybe that's not the way to say it, but use use a input device in a new way so that it can get more data from its environment than even they designed it for, that they thought. Just that over time and the way people use it, and the way things change, like all of a sudden they go, oh, wait a minute, we can use it for a collection device too. And that's when you think about it, like it's part of their technology, really. Like some of the AirTags and the Apple network is essentially a giant internet of things. So a non-internet based internet. I mean, we say internet as a general name for the concept of a bunch of computers being tied together. Technically, the internet is specifically computers tied together over phone lines, which, I mean, probably doesn't even, that's kind of hard to happen anymore. It's probably less and less and less of our stuff anymore at all. So technically, the word internet is getting kind of old fashioned. It's like saying, I don't even know, like saying highway or something. I don't know. But anyway, at some point, we're going to figure out that there's the original internet. And then, like I say, if you'd count all the Apple devices, all the phones and watches, probably even earphones at this point, and all the AirTags, all the laptops and all the computers, all the servers. What else does Mac make? If they make cameras, or if they are working with people that make cameras, and those are like Wi-Fi cameras, every one of those little Wi-Fi antennas makes up the Macintosh network. Now, there is the internet also, but if the internet fell down, I suspect all the Macintosh devices could still all talk to each other because they actually have their own way of talking to each other. They already do that. But anyway, so that's one of those things where we don't really pay attention, but it's already kind of, the infrastructures are underlying the stuff that we use. And as we get more familiar or more comfortable with the advances, we'd pay less and less attention to those infrastructures. Anyway, so that being said, what they're able to do with the things is going to be annoying, mind-blowing, convenient, comfortable, difficult, and then eventually dangerous, right? I think that's just the nature, I mean, making knives and selling them, people are going to get more cuts. People are going to get into boxes way faster. I mean, we're going to be able to comfortably carry a decent knife around with us instead of a super expensive knife that, we had to save up for. Now we can, for a couple of bucks, carry around a nice knife. There's two edges to that situation. So I think we have to acknowledge that the people that are crying about the negatives, that's like, oh, look, another person cut their finger on a knife, we should ban all knives, or we should be skeptical of the knife. I don't get it. I don't believe it. There's more going on here. You're not paying attention to the positive side. You weren't even subbed to our channel. Well, thanks. I'm glad you're checking it out. So the RFID chips in everyone's pocket, I mean, they're changing the way things are for sure. But RFID is, I forget what RF stands for, radio frequency identification, probably. But if you think about how these work, you have to be within a certain amount of feet. So they don't have, at this point, any way to zap these things from the street lights as you're driving underneath of them. Once we're at that point, it's another level, but they can do that with our phones. And once they can do that with streetlights will have drones in them and other stuff, cameras in them and stuff. So yeah, we can be, I guess, I don't know what the word is. We can be skeptical of all this stuff and concerned and insist that we make slower progress. And then what happens when other countries don't bother with any of that and just keep on making progress? I don't think that's a winning move. So yeah, we're in a tough spot, or we're in an interesting spot because things are more capable. I think we just have to be more capable also. Yeah. Once you're talking like walking through doorways and stuff. If you think about how hard would it be to add something to a doorway where that push bar is, which is basically at waist level, right around where your wallets and your purses are all going to be. Put some kind of reader in there. There's definitely nothing stopping a criminal from doing it. So I'm not trying to say privacy's no big deal or privacy's lost, like just deal with it. No, no, no. I think I agree with you 100%. What the hell? That's weird. Just as I was touching my phone, call came in. Super weird. What was I touching my phone for? And that freaked me out. I can't remember why I was trying to look at my phone. Having little Faraday pouches, essentially little bags that you slip your phone into, take it offline. Those are handy. So one, people can't chirp to your phone and figure out where you are, and your phone isn't constantly chirping out either. And that's simple as buying a thing. Like I think the cheapest ones I bought were like $5 or $6. The most expensive ones I bought were $20. So they're not major purchases to buy some sort of a sleeve. They are essentially perishable. So you'd want to test after some amount of months of use, because what they are is just fabric with a really thin copper. What would that be? Like a mesh or like a netting inside the fabric, like built into the fabric. So it's not right. It's somewhere between nylon and rubber. Is what it feels like. Still soft and pliable, but more like kind of like a backpack or something. It's like almost like a rainproof material. Anyway, you can tell that there's something in there. One, it's thicker or it's rigid because there's metal in there a little bit, and it's wire, so it's not like it's plate metal or anything. But then it's also like waterproof or something, and you can tell it's like 3 layers. So it's not like soft nylon, but they're fanny packs and envelopes and things big enough for a wallet, things big enough for a tablet, and then things big enough for a laptop. It's typically the sizes they come in. I mean, I've definitely got links if you want some links. I'm not trying to sell them to you, but I'm just saying like that is definitely a thing as a preventative measure that anyone can do. So we can be upset that the phone companies are gonna put antennas and speakers and light detecting shit like a gyroscope. You know how much data our gyroscopes give out from our phones? It's nuts. So we can be upset about that. But then what about your car? Like, guess what? Your car does most of that shit by now. You can be upset about that. And then it's like your operating system. So a lot of this stuff is doing it. And I'm not saying because it's all doing it, it's right. I'm just saying that you gotta either you're jumping into this or you're not jumping into it. And if you're going to jump in, I wouldn't just jump in and be upset, because what's the point? Like, oh, I think we should have no technology. No, since it's in it's like batteries or something, like being anti-battery. Like, okay, be anti-battery, but you can be aware of batteries and maybe like let people know your feelings about batteries, but you're never going to use a battery. Like that's very much limiting yourself. So unless you've got some kind of like perceived sensitivity to this shit, I think just being, what's the word? Like being a it's not self-sufficient. There's a word for being like prepared, but for security. I can't think of this word. But anyway, in order to be responsible for your own security, I guess, you can't just be concerned about these issues. You have to know about these issues. And once you know about the issues, you realize that, here's the thing, maybe this is a better way to say it. Like once you realize these issues, you're going to understand that while they're accurate, and while they're can be concerning, what they're being used for and what their capabilities are sort of keep them in check. I'm going to say naturally or physically. So I'm going to try to use an analogy that I don't know if it's going to work or not, but theoretically, technically, like the possibility is there that if you walked into a lake, you might catch a fish hook or something, and get a fish hook in your foot or your toe or something. Now you can beat the odds and go to like a beach, like an established beach, where chances are one, people aren't fishing there, so there's less chance of a hook being there naturally or like intentionally or accidentally or something. But then also, just in case something were to float into the beach area, more than likely one of the tasks of the lifeguards or something is to go in and kind of clean up, make sure that the water, monitor the water for issues like that, right? Like go in and comb the beach or do some kind of snorkel around and make sure that, nothing goofy is floated in or there's not like a shark floating around or something. So, that might limit your risk, but you're still going to be at risk of hitting a fish hook in any lake because it's always a possibility. But now if you just jump into a lake off the end of a pier, off the end of a dock, like in some cases, you have a much increased risk if that's a dock where everybody fishes at. But at other times, maybe that's a dock that no one fishes at because there's no fish in this lake. And that's only used for pontoon boats or something. And you can jump off that thing almost free of risk. So I don't know if I'm using the best analogy here or not, but that's basically technology. Yeah, there's going to be people that are like, never jump in a lake. You're crazy. Like your odds of catching a fish hook are not zero. They might not be 100%, but what's the point? Just to get the satisfaction of jumping in a lake? Well, fuck them. Maybe they never went to a lake before and they don't understand the satisfaction of jumping in the lake. Maybe they never been hot before. Maybe they never swam around before. Maybe they never been in a lake where there's like turtles or something cool that they'll enjoy swimming around with. So, you know what I mean? Like you can't just take advice from people on the internet, especially when they're selling you a VPN or something stupid, because they don't even have to be selling you something for what they're complaining about. Like, oh, I have a real problem with fish hooks in lakes. So let me sell you some foot ointment or something. You know what I mean? Like now it doesn't even look like I'm trying to get you, I'm only talking about lakes, but I'm over here really trying to get you to buy foot ointment. And that's so many of them is like the concern from the security people is like, I know a little bit about the issue. I know enough to not talk about the good parts. I'm only going to talk about the scary stuff. And, if I can kind of direct it towards be scared enough to buy my VPN, then, we all win because I get paid. So I'm always going to put that in there. So I guess what I'm saying is there's too many charlatans. I don't get upset just because something can be used poorly till I see a lot of evidence of it being used poorly consistently. I'm not going to raise the alarm. Just it's the sky is falling thing. You know what I mean? Like too many people in the privacy security realm are satisfied to raise the alarm. And usually the thing to solve the problem is something they're selling. So first, as soon as you take that out of it, you start to get to people that are much more nerdy about it. And then you get much fewer views on those videos because you really have to either be in the realm, or you're trying to learn something. So, and that's just security. I mean, it's 100% the same with vehicles, I'm sure, and with motorcycles and with guitars and everything else that's out there. So I'm not trying to say that these aren't concerns, I guess. I'm just trying to say, like, let's say that obviously, like, we don't think that the government is trying to put a RFID card reader on a doorway, like some kind of replace the hinge. And now, like, we can subtly record everybody that goes in and out of this doorway because the government would need to. They could just hire somebody to stand there and count or something. Like, so we're going to rule out like state actors who could easily do this because they could easily do something else that's more accurate and doesn't cost them anything. They would never get discovered or something. So what we're probably talking about is a hacker. We're talking about some kid, prankster, saboteur, like somebody trying to get intel on a company, right? Like some kind of criminal, probably a criminal or some criminal that somebody else hired. But that's what we're talking about. So now we're talking about the capability of that criminal. And, what's the odds? I guess now you're talking about odds. So in other words, I'm not saying that this doesn't happen. I'm just saying that at this point, there's no use for that data beyond like a competitor wondering how many people are eating at that restaurant, or like, how many people actually go into that building when the occupancy was said to be 1,200. And I suspect there's 3,600 people going in and out there each day. Like, except for something like that, I just don't see the gain from pickpocket, let's say, trying to RFID everybody. Now, I don't know. Like, I don't know. So I'm not a criminal. I don't pay attention to this shit. It's possible that an RFID reader in a city, where there's at a train station or something, there's like thousands of people walking by. Maybe they can sniff a bunch of credit cards or something. Maybe that's a thing. In which case, do you somehow hold your breath until the city makes criminals go away? Like, what's realistic here? Like, just because criminals get to figure out a new way to be criminals, it's our job in walking around in society to be outsmarter than criminals, I guess, to be able to be capable amongst the people. So I would count it as, again, I would say a responsibility. I don't know if it sucks, I guess, but it also sucks to be responsible for like your aid, if your own self aid, if you broke a leg somewhere. Are you going to break a leg and just sit there until somebody comes along and helps you? Or are you going to figure it out on your own? Kind of depends on, I guess, the mindset of the person or something, but I can't get behind like, let's take the system down because criminals might use it. Let's not do something that the rest of the world is running to do because we feel like criminals might use it. Like, that's what I'm getting at. Stick with older vehicles that didn't have the GPS and no Bluetooth. Yeah. Or, I've seen lots of solutions to this. We'll see. I wouldn't be too concerned until it becomes some kind of a thing like Obama did, where he killed all the old cars. Till the new king, unless Trump does it, but whoever the new king of the USA is, decides to make all cars without GPS units destroyed. Like, we don't give people that power. Like, that's not a thing. There's not very many. I would have said a long time ago that there's no way you could have taken away all the old cars, but they certainly did it. I wasn't really paying attention when they did it. Was it before the internet? I don't remember when all that happened. I kind of remember when all that happened. I definitely understand the recourse of it because I couldn't buy any more old cars anymore. But I hear you. I have two cars that don't have any of that junk and one car that does have that junk. It's nicer in the car that has backup camera and shit, though. Oh, let's see. Outcast is saying you can take steps, but absolute doesn't. Wait, you can take steps, but absolutely doesn't come without its hardships. Risk management should be the name of the game. Yeah. I agree with that part. I don't know if I'm reading the first part. Packrat is saying, going back to RFIDs, I put RFID tags on my dogs. I also put them in my car, but I control who sees those tags. I hope everybody is doing that. Having them on dogs is a super good idea, I think, because it's as small as a dog tag. Now, Mello did lose hers, so I got to go find it. But guess what? I can find it because it's got a GPS location thing in it. I think it's in the backyard. But yeah, if they ever go running away or somebody steals them or something, then you've got that, especially with the car, right? Like, you got to have a GPS locator in your car. If you don't, come on. I don't think you need an Apple to get them. I think you can use them with both kind of phones. But I have a subscription for my cars. They make things that are designed to be like for fleet vehicles, like a company wants to know where their own, company vehicles are. And it'll record everything, like where you go all the time. I forget, like every 15 seconds or something crazy. And then speed, direction, everything with a webcam. Like, it's pretty cool. It costs me $79 a year or something like that for each car. But yeah, just knowing where my cars are all the time, I like that. Especially if you had a kid driving your car around, I definitely want that. And then same thing, you put them on your keys, put them on whatever. RFID tags, if you buy a fancy one, they're like $30 and you can get them. They make RFID tags that you would use in like a warehouse or like organizing your crafts in the closet type of thing that are 50 cents a tag or 25 cents a tag or something. They're literally, so you put a different tag on each drawer of a big, 25 thing of drawers or whatever. You buy them 25 or 100 at a time for that kind of indexing. And that can be pretty handy if you're, because they don't use a battery. They're basically just like those price tags you get at a store for like shoplifting, except that you use them intentionally. You give them a number, or maybe they have a number on them, and then, use them for organizing your stuff. And it can make, if you incorporate that with some kind of spreadsheet or some sort of a software, it can make getting work done a million times faster if you're constantly searching for stuff in some kind of circumstance. But yeah, for like misplaced keys, or expensive gear. I mean, I use a bunch. I probably have like 30 RFIDs laying around that maybe 2 or 3 I have to pay a yearly fee for. Most of them you just buy it and you own it and it's done, and you can just track this thing however you want. The Apple ones are neat because they're pretty much everyone has Apples everywhere, so they'll work in a lot of places. Some of the other ones aren't as nice because if they don't have something nearby to ping off of, then they don't, they're kind of hidden. So those are a little less convenient sometimes. But stuff that's on the Apple system, because there's Apple people with Apples so many places all the time, harder for something like that to get misplaced. Let's see, could become an issue when it comes to keeping your identity private. And that's probably another discussion, but yeah, certainly. And that's the kind of stuff that these channels will talk about, not necessarily exclusively, but occasionally they'll bring them up. And I guess it's just like, your vehicle. If someone is going to drive around with just their license plate on there, okay, everybody's got your license plate. There's not like a license plate database where somebody can go find your home address, but we all know that police can, and probably other people can, with authorization or whatever access, but most people can't. But then how many people put like, my kid's a student of the month at such and such grade school? Well, now you've just told a kid, everybody in the world where your kid goes to school. And then there's people that put that like little family on the back of their car, some kind of stick figure family, or it's funny, or it's whatever. And then they'll have the names of everybody under there. And now you've just told everybody who everybody in your family is. So it's not illegal to do that. It's not, like people do it. And a lot of people do it without thinking. And a lot of people, or some people, may have suffered from it. But I'm not going to say just because you got a stick figure thing of a bunch of people in the back of your car means you're somehow going to get more crime. It's just, you've slightly changed the odds. Maybe not slightly. You've changed the odds. So I guess it's the same kind of thing when you're online, I guess, that if you don't need to put a bunch of stuff on your car to tell everybody who you are. Some people go online and use their name, and they like, this is ethical, this is how you're supposed to do it. And other people have never used their name online, and there's no right or wrong. They're trying to make it where you have to use your name. Somehow that's going to stop people. Like criminals don't use fake names. Like criminals don't get aliases. Guess who doesn't get aliases? Regular people. So now do you want your kids to be able to go around anonymously online, or do you want your kids to have to use their full names? I can't understand at any level why people would insist on other people using their full names online. Like, that is just the dumbest thing ever. Personally, I hope it never goes through, and you know what I mean? Like, there will definitely be workarounds if it ever happened. But anyway, new cars will have a kill switch. People can remove them, but it often affects features and will void your warranty. Yeah, when you buy a thing, hopefully you're buying a thing outright. Because if you buy a thing on a lease or some kind of, lease to own, I don't know what might even call it. But yeah, if they start to sell cars with subscription services that you never actually own, then watch out. But if you're buying the thing, I would suspect there's very little claim they can have on what you do with the thing once you bought it. You know what I mean? Like, unless they say you're buying the car, but the internal camera system is for rent from us and you're not allowed to remove it because you're signing some contract. But hopefully people won't just fall for all that. Right now it's cool because it's like the thing to do and nobody's questioning it. What happens when people question it and nobody wants a car anymore because of that feature? Do they insist on putting it in there? They're not putting it in there because they hate us. They're putting it in there because they think people like it and they think it'll make some more cars sell. Or maybe there's some law that makes them. I don't think that's the case. They're probably just doing it because they think it's cool. If nobody buys the thing, like the Ford Broncos from last year that nobody bought and they're just sitting in parking lots, I guess, from what I hear, guess what? They're not going to make them a Broncos. If they don't sell this year, they're not going to make more next year unless they're a stupid company. So I suspect that I agree with you. Like, people are not going to want it. They're going to start voiding their warranty. They're going to get pissed and they're going to be outraged online. I turned off my stupid camera and now they won't fix my bumper. That kind of shit. You think that, or Outcast is saying most people will unfortunately just submit? Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think that we're made up of a country who is, I think we've looked it up before. We're like 10 to 15% first gen, like came from another country, 20% second gen, like our parents came from another country, like 13% third gen or more. And then it's something like 5% or 10% that have been here for like 10 generations. So I think that when I'm bringing that up is I think that indicates that a good chunk of the country still remembers the bullshit that they came from. They didn't come here because they got nothing else to do. They didn't come here because of the money only. People come here because they're sick of wherever they've been most of the time. And that doesn't disappear. Like your kids know that you came here for that. Your grandkids know you came here for that. So those values are the United States values. And you know what I mean? I don't think you have to like agree to those when you come into the country, but I think they're kind of universal or more than not universal-ish. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that we've got a strong backbone, and that's like ingrained into the way our country works. Because you don't have to be here to be here. You know what I mean? Like everybody wants to make it seem like that's the fucking thing. It isn't. That's never been like that. Everybody came from somewhere else. Literally everybody, even the Native Americans came from somewhere else. So some people have been here longer than others, but not that many. Very, very few. Let's see. The ones who don't will be treated as a criminal. I don't know about all that. I think the ones that don't will be treated as people that just don't want a camera pointing at them when they're picking their nose or yelling at their kids or getting yelled at by their wife or whatever, and they're just going to get sick of it. What about OnStar? I mean, basically OnStar is a camera that's looking at you all the time. We have that already. But in that case, people didn't stop buying cars because of OnStar. So I don't know if that proves my point or your point. Outcast's fathers continues with, they will go back to the basic philosophy of if you're not doing anything wrong, what's the problem? That's what they're trying to sell it as. I just don't agree that the population is going to be comfortable with that. Packard says, I have it in my car just in case it gets towed for unknown reasons. Yeah, exactly. You're talking about the locator. Outcast is saying the vast majority of people buying new vehicles aren't paying cash. Okay. Even if they did, it would still affect the warranty. So you're saying like because they're leasing it or something, or because they're paying it off, they're not able to take it out? And getting a new one now without a warranty is crazy. Yeah, no, I hear that. Especially like a new model of anything, right? You don't want to be the guinea pig on a new model and find out that there's problems with it and you don't got a warranty. So I'm not saying there's a solution or like that I'm right about nothing. I'm just saying like I'm just not as concerned as some folks. I'm not a big fan of a car looking at me while I'm driving and then having a brain, but I don't own one of those. I personally wouldn't own one personally, but I'm also not anywhere close to buying one because I don't buy cars until they're like 10 years old. I bought one car that was new and I regretted it almost immediately. I only buy old cars now. But in 20 years or something, I'm going to be definitely pulling those cameras out. Anyway, I don't know. We got 2 hours in today. We're not really talking about guns, but that's because people didn't ask a bunch of gun questions. We did take a look at what's going on the calendar. That's what we kind of started out this show with. And then we took a look at some of the stuff that I've been looking at this week, which hopefully it's definitely not a well-rounded look at the week, but at least it shows you some variety of stuff you may not have seen or been paying attention to. About to end it here. So if anybody wants to throw a last question or a last comment in there. Otherwise, I hope everybody has a good weekend. It's the 10th as we record this. So if you're listening to this as a podcast or reading this in the future, when we went live. Join us live. We go live every single day. We've been live every single day since 2016, talking about guns without any assistance from AI whatsoever. Just real life people and my little dog talking about guns. Patriots hand on the 4th of July in San Antonio, police towed a bunch of people that were parked on the side of the road where I live. Luckily, you weren't off the road. Good. Or you were off the road. Why can't we combine our guns into our vehicles? You mean like putting like guns into the headlights and shit? I don't think we're stopped from doing that. I think whenever a gun doesn't look like a gun, it becomes an AOW. So there's that issue. And then some states won't allow you to have an AOW. But I think aside from those two things, that would be the only things covering having a gun, like, inside your car somewhere. We don't see enough of them, but when you think about it, there's plenty of guns like as turrets. It's just that we don't put them into vehicles enough. I know why. Everybody knows why. Because you just can't do nothing with a gun that's in your headlights. It looks cool in a movie when you tell the other car to be in the other actor to be in a car right in front of you. But in real life, all you'd have to do is turn slightly to the left or right, and those headlight guns would be useless. But something like a small turret, like on the hood of a car, where like a scoop would be for like a turbo or something. If you put a small turret there and have something that's belt fed up there, and then the steering wheel is going to turn your wheels, but then you had something with your thumbs that could change the direction of the up and down and left and right of the little turret up front, then I think you'd be better off with a vehicle. Because again, if a car is driving up and down hills, you can't just change the direction of the front of your car to match. You'd have to have something. And then ideally you'd have something with like an AI tracker on there, and your crosshairs, you would sort of like with the drones, when you target something with a drone and then you walk around and the drone follows you, to film you. You could do something like that where you target the item with your heads up display, and then from then on it's tracking. And whenever you push the fire button, it shoots, but it's constantly tracking that other vehicle. Then you'd be in good shape. On my vehicles, I could put them on my push bars up front, but or on top even. But on a regular car, yeah, you'd probably want to put it on the hood. All right. Well, we did have a gun question, so thanks for asking that one. All right. With that being said, we're ending this one. Hope everybody has a great weekend. See you on Monday or Sunday or one of those.